everybody, Smoove Cosplayer here, your favorite salsa dancing cosplayer, bringing you another episode of Smoove Conversations. My honored guest tonight is Mr. Dominycan Knyght Cosplay. Dominycan Knyght, how are you today, sir?
I'm well. I'm doing all right tonight. I can't complain.
Hey man, glad to have you here, man. It's been forever. I feel like I say that to everybody because of freaking COVID, but yes,
it is. Forever. It's this 2020 is a jump year. It almost feels like, because we're into sci-fi and all that other stuff. It almost feels like this is the year. 2020 was the year of hypersleep, where when you're trying to travel from one part to the other, you go into that deep sleep chamber, and then you come out the next. That's what that feels like. That's what 2020 feels like.
That 2020 also, or the amount of time in between the last con we was at before COVID and whatever con you first went to, it feels like coming back from the snap.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that's true.
We got blipped back into existence, and now
and all these cons. I mean, I popped into some smaller cons, not for an extended amount of time. Like I did Magic City Con a couple of months back, and I was gonna do AWA, like go and go, but I was just like, I'm just gonna do Lobby Con for like a couple hours, and that's about it. I just sort of like popped in, said hi, and dipped out. So with Momo, the Winterfest now coming up, I'm back on that. Maybe I'll hit that up. Maybe I'll give that one an earnest go at it, because it's still a smaller con, and the weather is perfect for heavier cosplays and stuff like that, because you can the stuff that you usually during DragonCon, as you well know, in the middle of August, some of those costumes, man, you just just pouring out sweat, just like
listening, just all of that. Man. Dude,
that's why we got to stick to characters like like you do it right, because you do Roadblock. The Roadblock with the tank top. That's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
The wrong way to do it is is G.I. Joe the movie as The Rock, full camouflage. That's the wrong way to do it.
Yes, outside late August / early September, full camo gear, big
full
old
camo gear, big old hand cannon.
Just
That's I'm telling you. I mean, but I will say this: there's nothing like the calories that you burn in at DragonCon during the summer.
I do miss that. That's probably the only reason I don't decline the parade.
Yeah,
because I'm looking forward to them lost pounds.
That's no joke. I mean, and even actually, I think and I think with the advent of us carrying these things around and counting steps and stuff like that, DragonCon every year, my watch is like, what are you doing? Wow. Like there's digits, you're hitting digits here that don't get registered during the course of the year. What are you doing?
All the steps. Yeah, I think that combined with, I don't think any of us eat well during.
That's true.
Like, we're so busy doing geeky stuff, we're too busy walking around, we're too busy doing photo shoots, we're too busy. Like me, I'm sometimes afraid to eat and sit down in my costumes, because I'm just like, I don't want to mess nothing up. I don't want nothing to break when I sit down. I don't want to spill nothing. So I will not eat until I get back to the hotel room and get back into
I know that feeling. I know. Yeah. I'm with you right there. It is something. It's an amazing, it's an amazing experience, but at the same time, it's one that, you got to constantly, the great thing about being in that community a lot of times and surrounding ourselves with, so many of our peers, like you and I and stuff like that, is that you can catch somebody, I can catch you and I can be like, hey, Smoove, you eat something?
Yes.
you got it. Hold on, I got a Nutri-Grain bar right here. Let me just go ahead.
That clutch question, when you with the right person, like romantically, they'll ask, hey, baby, you ate yet?
Yeah, exactly.
And you eat something? Someone wouldn't have to ask you that question. But how many times are you at home? Like for me, on a Saturday, because I want to get all my administrative stuff out the way, because once I sit down to chill, I'm done. I ain't doing nothing else. So I will clean and all of that, and before you know it, noon, 1 o'clock rolls around. I'm done. I ain't ate yet. Why have I not eaten yet? So it's weird how you don't think to eat sometimes. You would think that would be something that your body said, "Oh, I'm hungry, let's go eat." But too busy having fun, too busy cleaning,
too busy. Just you got that sort of set mind track where you're just like in this zone, and it's hard to break away from that. And eating, that's the funny thing about actually just like also eating for boredom. That's the amazing thing of how your body works. You could be sitting not doing anything, and the boredom makes you hungry because you're just sort of like, your body's like, what else we gonna do?
Well,
there's that bag of Cheetos right there. You want to grab that? You want to? You just
I think somebody else said that once. It was like, you're not hungry, you bored.
Yeah, that's the truth. But when you're not, you're absolutely right. The DragonCon is a perfect example of there are times where you're just hours and hours go by, and you're just like, I know I'm hungry. I know I am.
Oh my head,
but it's
hurts.
not.
Oh, this is an awesome costume. Let me get a picture of that.
Yeah. Let me get a picture of that. Let me go talk to this person. Let me go ahead and actually hang out with this person. And because you don't get to see them almost during the entire year, it's just, again, it's a homecoming, it's summer camp, it's all of these things, and you're just trying to catch up with everybody and make sure you see everyone, and that's it's the fun part of that. That's the great escape of it, and that's why I think it's so hard when you leave it. It's like post-con blues gets a lot of people. It gets me.
Dang.
What I start doing with that post-con blues is I love these guys like Minoru Bulu and Aishinobi, and
you start seeing all the videos come out.
Oh yes. So I tell these guys every time I see them at the con, I said, every time you guys put these videos together, it's a nice little capsule that I can go ahead, that'll coast me through the next couple of weeks to go ahead and actually just be able to see that, and just the music accompaniment and all that other stuff. There's part of me that actually really wishes I had that talent to do that. Both the videography and the editing, because I would really love to accompany it to a specific type of music that I think I don't hear a lot. I feel like the general sort of, and this is not a criticism, this is just actually,
I think I know what you're about to say too.
There's a lot of music that actually you don't hear with it, and that's and it'd be great to have that accompaniment, just to see it in different scopes and not have it be a very specific like electronica, and which I love electronica. I love actually, especially like chill electronica. I that's one of my favorite Pandora stations just to put on, and so it'd just be great to see some different stuff. So who knows, maybe I may get ambitious, and maybe one day that's the thing I start doing. It's just like, let me get a nice handheld and start doing some cosplay videos.
It's funny you say that. I was watching because I got a gimbal, so I don't know if you remember, I did I took my first shot at doing that. I made a all X-Men video back in 2019. And I told myself I wasn't going to do it again because I felt like a DJ who was trying to dance at his own party. Trying to be in cosplay and do all that, but then also film people. So it was a bit exhausting, but then as I see more videos, especially with what happened, last year, like the cosplay music videos from years past, the geeky part of me, it kept that part of me sane. Like that's what got me through that year. So I was like, okay, when this comes back around, I want to take another shot at it. Maybe not just do it, maybe not just X-Men themed, but just my own personal vlog, DragonCon, or insert blank con through my eyes or whatever. So
I'm excited to see that, man. I really hope actually that I get to see it, because that sounds amazing, just to be able to see your point of view, and also because you're one of the people that I think actually really appreciates the artistry of cosplay. Like I really, when I follow you and follow, your post-con sort of photo dumps and stuff like that, you really appreciate the artistry behind it. And it's amazing because, again, you could sort of from the outside, you could sort of also see that love and appreciation, and also like sort of take it into yourself. So I'm super curious to see that. I'm excited to see that.
Well, hopefully you'll see one soon, because I think I don't know if you're going to be at the Cosplay Your Way shoot Saturday, I think. Well, you'll be in one, because I'm going to be practicing there with my new little device. So I'm watching a video today, like a tutorial on like how to do videos. Yes, do videos better, or do better cinematography or videography. That's the more appropriate word. And as I'm listening to these videos or watching the videos, I'm listening to the music. And the music, I'm like, this sounds like typical cosplay music video music. Right. There's a very specific sound that's with it. And I really feel, and I know you will appreciate this as someone who, as a dancer, a ballroom dancer, and who listens to merengue, salsa, reggaeton, all that stuff. There's a part of me that would love to see that mix of music with a cosplay video. Like I would love to see how that. It may not clash well. It may not actually fit well. But it'd be great to sort of see that experiment. See, you give me ideas, because I already got music I'm thinking of, because I want to, like you said, I want to break that mold of what I don't want to do. The typical, here's yet another cosplay music video that has the same type of music. And for all of y'all that make cosplay music videos out there, y'all do amazing jobs. I'm not.
I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Music, but we are saying that it's kind of like, when. If you and I were both single, I'd be like, hey, there go Mo. There's that, he's with a girl again, and that's his type. That's how it is. Music videos. And again, it's not bad.
It's not. It really is. And so I've thought about that a little bit. I haven't asked any of the videographers this specifically, but I do know that sometimes also the trick is, if you're a YouTuber and you're trying to monetize, and you could potentially monetize those videos, there's a possibility of copyright stuff. And that part I get. I completely understand that you can't just use you can't just pop on Michael Jackson Beat It and put it in there unless you're putting in only a couple of seconds. Now, if you're just doing it for your own, hey, I'm just putting it in here and I'm not making any money off of it, whatever, YouTube might leave you alone. But I have heard stories of YouTube being very protective of copyright, copywritten music, and making sure that, hey, you can't play this because of this and all this other stuff. So I know that probably plays into that more than likely. Yeah, because
I've gotten away with putting asterisk. I don't own the rights to this music. Asterisk.
Yeah.
But again, I think because I'm not trying to monetize, YouTube leaves me alone. But I think, whenever I blow up, if that happens, I'll probably have to I'm not going to use this anymore. I have to actually, the royalty-free music. Royalty-free music.
Or make your own. I mean, that's the way it is. Make your own. There's the 86th Floor is another.
Yes.
They're actually I think they're based in Britain, I believe.
Yeah.
They actually also make their own music, and so their music accompanies their videos. So it frees them from that. But like I said, I can go on about all the guys and gals that do the videos, and they just, like I said, the service that they provide, and the the passion that they put into it, and the appreciation of cosplay, and just making us look so amazing is just like that's the cherry on top. It's just, you sometimes look at these videos and you see that they're like, okay, go ahead and do this, and it feels awkward in the moment, but then they actually show you the video and it's like, it's a slow motion and you're just like,
right. Bro, I tell you, the first time I saw, I mean, this wasn't my first time being in one of his videos, but this was I think MomoCon 2018. I was wearing my Napa, and Ronnie from Akio Boy got me the video. When I saw the video, like, I legit got goosebumps when I saw it, because it was a remix of Bruno Mars's "That's What I Like." Yeah. So "Sex by the Fire." So "Fire" is when my part comes in, and I'm charging up. Yeah. And there's the special effects of the energy coming out.
Yes, I remember that now that you mention it. Yeah, I remember that.
There's a reason that's the intro to my videos for like at least 2 years straight, and I was just like,
take advantage of it.
Yeah, so that. Yeah, seeing yourself in one of those, or even if you're not in one, like just seeing just the magic of it all. And so not only did that get me through 2020, geek-wise, like, again, the music. So now the music, I attach that to just that feeling. So I actually have a playlist of nothing but music from those cosplay music videos.
Oh, okay. I
have them in order of the year that the videos are released. So I put that playlist on. It takes me from like DragonCon 2015 all the way through 2019. So that music is taking me back there. But the bad thing about that is now that music is also taking me back to 2020.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
By association, by playing it in that year, now there's a detachment to it.
Yeah. The one that
I feel you there. I feel you.
And we're both in this one, because when I was Sith Jafar and you were Jedi Green Lantern.
Jedi Green Lantern, yeah.
That's Legend of Micah's 2020 video, but it's actually for 2019. And you would think he planned this. You would think he knew. I know he didn't, but you would think that he knew the pandemic was coming. Yeah. And he dropped it. He dropped the footage from 2019.
I remember that. During
DragonCon, the year that would have been DragonCon 2020. He dropped it then. I was like,
you had a moment. I had that moment too. I was just like, wait a minute. I'm like, but I didn't go to the con this year. Did I? Wait, hold on. Wait, what?
Like, when he dropped
I had to think about it for a second.
I knew it was a joke. It was a joke, but just the fact that timing could not have been any better. Right when we needed it the most.
Yeah. Man. Yep, I tell you, man, it's those videos are amazing. Like I said, I love also doing. My favorite game is watching it and being like, I know that person, I know that person, I know that person, I know that person. That's always a fun thing. And actually, I was watching the ones for AWA. Some of them came out already, I think.
Yeah.
I Shinobi
did his, already, and a few other ones.
Yeah. And I was watching that too, because it was just a great opportunity to see some of the cosplays, some of the amazing stuff that's out there. Plus, again, it's this capsule where you can sort of watch it and almost feel like you're immersed in it. And especially, and the other thing is, I will say, actually, this is more, because of the technology with these high definition cameras, man, it really feels like you're watching this and you're just like, man, it's crisp. It's like you're right there.
It is a whole experience. It ain't just a video. It is a freaking experience.
It is. I will say, actually, props to when you guys did that X-Men shoot at Krog. No, was it Krog? No, it was Pond City Market.
Yes, yeah.
And they did the special effects for your Cyclops, man. It was just chef's kiss.
Yes, big shout out to the pre-gamers. That they have made me look good on many occasions, but that mess. And we had to reschedule because the first time it happened, there was the threat of rain.
Yeah.
And then it didn't rain that day.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but the good thing was I had a chance to repair because I had to. So my Cyclops, it was the one, the Cyclops that has the X.
Yeah, with the X. Yeah.
And the way the face is cut, the X, and only somebody who's persnickety about stuff like me cares about this. Like if somebody else is persnickety about my stuff, I'll tell them F off. But
you could be critical.
Exactly.
Not anybody else. Nobody else has that right.
So the X wasn't sitting right on the face.
Yeah.
For it to sit right on the face, I can't see.
Right. Okay.
So there's a whole bunch of extra like black fabric below the X right here. So either I have to cover my nose, the nose is covered, or have it over here and the X is sitting right. But like all this craziness. So I ended up trying to alter it myself, and it didn't quite look right. So I ended up having to. I did that myself before the first date. Okay. And we ended up having to reschedule because of rain. So they gave me time to take it to the cleaners, have them alter it, and it works good enough now. Like I still have to tuck it under. And the bad thing is I can't tuck it under without looking in the mirror. So then I can't see well. I mean, I can see, but not well enough to make an adjustment. So I have to have, hey man, I'm gonna just trust you. Can you tuck? Yeah,
that's cosplay for you. That's exactly you just hit it on the head right there. That's exactly what it is. It's a lot of you know as comic book fans and as fans of the genre, when we watch the movies and you watch these characters walking around with this stuff, you're just sort of like, yeah, it looks cool, it looks great. Practically, with the practical application of it,
in mind at all.
It is like I've undertaken recently.
Body image, all that stuff. They don't draw that with any of that in mind.
No. And not only that, but also I've undertaken recently, Batman. And so one of the things I've discovered in that is those cowls more times than not are not, unless you get one that's molded to your face, like you get a face mold and you get it actually precise, and that's more than likely what they do with for the movies, they'll probably make a mold of your face and then build it around it so that way it sits naturally with your face. Yeah. You're buying cowls, and the cowls itself, I had to go through an exchange and buy cowls and sell them, because as I was trying them, there was always something. It was either something wasn't sitting right here, or something wasn't fitting over here, or it was squeezing. There was one cowl I had that was basically squeezing my brain into mush. And they, and again, and the pictures, and when you set everything up and you get dressed and you're taking pictures and stuff like that, the constant sort of primping and tucking and sort of like readjusting, every single time I have to do that, I'm in my head, I'm in my process of, my gosh, man, I can't imagine Batman. That's probably why he's angry all the time. That's why he's walking around half the time talking about this.
Wasn't in the movies, or at least in the earlier movies, like he couldn't turn his head, so anytime he had to turn. That was actually the reason why when I got one of my biggest things about getting a cowl was I was just like, I don't want the one that's connected, because I'm like, I want the ability to turn left, turn right. I want that. I don't want to be like this whole time. And thankfully now they've made some that are a little bit more flexible and they can move. But that was my main thing, was I was just like, man, I don't want to be walking around rigid like this, and whenever you look up, because that's actually what Keaton had to do. Whenever we would look up, he'd have to tilt almost his entire body to go ahead and look up. Like bending his spine backwards.
Yes, bend is. It's like, that's not practical. There's no movement in that.
Cosplay and practical, they're oxymorons basically.
No, they're not. But we still love it. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's why I do love comfortable cosplay. I mean, if you ask me which is my favorite cosplay, it is always, without any hesitation, Luke Cage, because Luke Cage is what I would wear on a regular basis anyway. Yeah. And you know what? That's it. The only thing is, it has a couple more holes in it most of the time, but it's perfectly comfortable.
Yeah. So speaking of loving cosplay, wow, this is the deepest I've ever gone into an interview without asking my typical opening question.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm honored that it took this long. That's awesome.
I've been trying to warm people into it. My last few, instead of just bam right out the gate. So, Mo, when did you fall in love with cosplay? Take me back to when you like it just grabbed you and said, "Hey, this you got to do this."
It was so. To talk about that a little bit, I have to say that it probably I've been a geek, all of my life. So I've been, and specifically a comic book geek. That's my genre of choice, or my specific sort of fandom choice. And so the very first convention I attended was a very early MegaCon, Florida, in Orlando, back in like 98 or something like that. And I remember going, and I remember there were a couple of people that were in cosplay, but they were also associated with, like, it was almost like the comic book. That year happened to be Todd McFarlane was there, and so we had, there was a couple of people. There was a lady dressed up as Vampirella. He had a guy dressed up as Spawn, and so they were there with sort of accompanying the comic book and the comic book writer. So it wasn't a thing of like, there were a couple of people sort of dressed, walking around the comic book, but for the most part, the people there were associated with people for the comic book. And I remember that there was a Spawn and an Angela, and so in seeing that, I remember being very intrigued by it, but it was never something that I was just like, oh, I want to do that, because for me, I thought of it like almost in a weird way like a mascot. It was just like, these people are just being mascots for this artist, right? Yeah. Oh, and they may not have been. That's the thing, I don't know. And then so fast forward later on to DragonCon, I think it was maybe 06 or 08. I attended, and again, it really started that con, or DragonCon more specifically. That's when there was a lot more cosplay and a lot more, like, pretty much the majority of people walking around wearing costume. Yeah. And that was the point where I was just sort of like, wow, that's actually really cool that they are not only enjoying their fandom, but they're embodying their favorite characters. They're saying, Superman, I want to dress up like Superman. Spider-Man, I want to dress up like Spider-Man. And so after that, I think I had stumbled on the superhero forum, Marvel shoot, and that was a shoot. When I saw that shoot and I saw all these people with all of these characters that I grew up loving and reading the comic books of, I was just like, I gotta do this. And not only that, but also I remember at the time in interacting and meeting with a lot of the cosplayers, how super engaging they were, how welcoming they were. They were like, yeah, I mean, this is what we do, and it's fun, and it's, it wasn't, I wasn't necessarily saying, hey, I want to do this. It was more of like just me trying to like gauge, what their general sort of attitude was about it. Yeah. And that was basically what got me hooked. So then the following year, or sometime after that, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start really, really simple, because I was, let me dip my toe in the water by taking and doing something like, for example, let me do Hancock, which was the very, very first one I did. I was just like, let me do Hancock. Actually, I happened to be wearing the vest that I wear for Hancock, this one right here. And I was like, I'm going to do that. I think I went to Etsy or something, or eBay. I got the beanie. I looked up images and I tried to emulate as best I could the clothes he had. The T-shirt I got screen printed. So, because in the movie he has, obviously his motif is an eagle. So somewhere on him there's an eagle. So this shirt had like almost like an eagle print, but you could tell it was washed out. So when I got it printed, I was just like, listen, I need you to go ahead and screen print it, but I need you to go ahead and actually just like do the worst job you can. Basically, just like do a first layer and that's it. and they did actually phenomenal. It was actually this place called Fallen Arrows, which unfortunately they're not in business anymore. Or I think actually they may have moved to a different platform. Maybe they're just online, but they used to have a store downtown. Anyway, so I did that, went to the con, and I figured, you know what? This is going to be something that I'm wearing this. Granted, I'm wearing a beanie in the middle of August, but who cares? Ultimately, I still look like just a regular con goer. No one's going to really sort of put two and two together. And if they do, only those people who will be like, I get that sort of deep cut, which is not really considered really a deep cut, but you know what I mean. It's not a main sort of. And there were, and people recognized it. And when they recognized it, I was just sort of like, that right there was just like, it's such an amazing feeling to take a character that for the most part is fairly obscure, not completely obscure, but you're not, there's not an outcry for a Hancock 2, right, where people are, that's not happening. I'd love to see it, but that's not happening. So, but you had people that recognized it, and that part of it, and then also again, how welcoming people were already in the community. And people that actually also other cosplayers that recognize the character. That feeling was just like, wow, this is actually something really cool. And from that point, I started getting that confidence of being like, okay, well, let me try something a little bolder. Let's see if actually a character, again, that is maybe not always on Front Street, but a character that actually people will recognize. And that's when I went to Walter Dean, and I commissioned Valzad Superman and Green Lantern, and those were the two. Actually, no, I take that back. So let me refer. I commissioned Valzad from someone through Etsy before, but that first commission, unfortunately, the way that the lady tailored it, because again, it was somebody in another state. She did the torso too short, and I have a long torso, and unfortunately, I was walking around with an atomic wedgie in the con. It was a beautiful suit, don't get me wrong, but it was not comfortable. No. So then after that was when I went to Walter Dean, and I was just like, hey, I want to commission these two characters. I want to redo Valzad Superman. And he, like, my gosh, he and I actually worked really well, and he just did a beautiful, gorgeous freaking job. That to this day, I mean, that suit, I've gotten so much mileage out of that Green Lantern. It's not even funny.
Anything I paid like a couple $100 for or more, I ain't retiring that ever.
No, you're right.
No, you're right. All the mileage out of it. But yeah, Walter Dean's List, y'all.
Yes, Dean's List.
If you even if you're not local to Atlanta, if you need a good commissioned costume, go hit up.
I'm just going to tell you that if you get a chance, go on Instagram. It's Walter Dean, Dean's List with a Y, Lyst, and you should see his latest Green Lantern, because he started posting pictures of his progress, and this is where dad jokes are coming in. I was green with envy, because he did it based on this one particular statue, I guess, that the person who's commissioning it brought over to him. But the detail, the piping, and all that other stuff, I am just so blown away. And I am just like, again, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little jealous. I'm like, man, I've told Walter, I'm like, I gotta do a Green Lantern 2.0. I gotta do that soon.
I need that new. Okay.
I need that new. I don't want to retire the old one, because here's the thing about the first one I got. I did it based on the Justice League Unlimited version. And I love the clean lines that cartoon has, because it's a very animated style. It's very clean, very angular. And so that suit, it's so simple, but so like striking that I love that. I love that version of the suit by far and away. It's probably one of my favorite suits is the Green Lantern one. And so if I were to venture into another version of it, I'd probably stick closer to the Justice League animated one, just because that one was amazing. I've seen other versions of John Stewart's Green Lantern, and I've been like, they're all right. But that particular one is very near and dear to me, because that one just the aesthetic is awesome.
Yeah. Now I know I think we were on a panel together. I think it was the one that we did way on the Stonecrest Library a while back. And I know you mentioned how you prefer to, I don't know if this is all you've ever done, but I know you prefer to do characters that are African-American or brown-skinned characters.
Yeah.
Now, I know the reason why you do this, but for everyone at home, just to kind of drive the point home, why do you tend to stick to characters who look like us?
I mean, for me personally, it was just, you grow up, I grew up actually a good part of my childhood in New York. I lived in New York till the age of 9. And
what borough? What borough?
You're asking me stuff from freaking forever ago, man. It was actually I lived I know when people say that, when I say this, people get an idea, but it's not what they think. I lived in Manhattan. I lived on the Upper East Side, but here's the thing. I didn't live in the Upper East Side. I lived in a projects that was a low-income project that they had close to Lincoln Center and stuff. It was a little small area that right now is actually, well, I think it still is, because the last time I was there a couple of years back, they were redoing the buildings, but it's a rent-controlled low-income housing, and so that's where I actually were as a kid, until the age of 9, that's where I lived. But it was important for me because as a kid, I grew up watching, Super Friends. That's the first example that always comes to mind for me, is Super Friends. And I remember watching Super Friends and watching not the Super Friends with not the first iteration with Wendy and what's his name and Marvin and stuff like that. Yeah. Talk about Challenge of the Super Friends, when they really started bringing more DC characters in, and they started bringing and they really, made a better attempt. I'm not going to say it was the greatest attempt, but they made a better attempt of more representation, meaning they included characters like Black Vulcan, Black Lightning, but Black Vulcan. They included, gosh, I can't remember.
I probably know who you're talking about, but I don't remember the names either, because
I don't remember. One of them was an Aztec.
Yes, that's who I was thinking.
Yes, and the other one, Apache Chief, and so they brought in a couple more characters of color.
Eldorado, one of them.
Eldorado, yes, yeah. Eldorado. And then the last one actually is the one that I know I'm definitely not going to get, even though I try. It was the Japanese samurai. What's his name, Samurai?
I know who you're talking about, because I figured, I think Jabbar, Walter.
Yes, Jabbar, Walter, Larry, and Sharita do the cosplay those characters. But yes, so. But before that particular iteration of the cartoon, you had your main Super Friends, and your main Super Friends are all white characters.
Yeah.
So you're in the playground and you're playing, and you want to play heroes and villains. You can't, when you're a kid and you're playing with other kids around your same age, the moment, and if they are white or not, they automatically are like, no, you can't be that character because you're not the right skin color.
Yeah.
And that's more a systematic indictment. That's not an indictment on the people themselves. But again, that's what you grow up in. That's what that's the image that you see. And so for me, on a personal level, it's always something I've carried with me. And so when I started cosplaying, it was really important for me to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and actually cosplay these characters. Not because I cannot cosplay anybody else.
Right.
It's not it at all. It's that I want these characters of color, to be prominent, to be at the forefront, to be like, if you came up to me, you said, hey, I don't know who that character is, that's the opening for me to explain who the character is. And not only that, hopefully be able to engage someone to get to know the character, to maybe pick up the comic books, watch the whatever TV shows. And so it was important for me for them to see that. So with Jon Stewart, that one was the easier one, because I felt like that one had already gotten an introduction by the time I started cosplaying. Obviously, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited had been out, so they, that was mainstream enough where there were people who, there was a certain generation that was Green Lantern, which to this day I find absolutely amazing. I love that I've had younger, and when I say younger obviously in the sense of like a couple of years significantly younger than me, come up to me and say, hey, you're the Green Lantern. Like, you're the Green Lantern I know. Like, people say Hal Jordan, they're like, who? They don't know that, and that to me is amazing. But you have characters like Val-Zod, and Val-Zod was just recently introduced, like in the last 10 years. When somebody says, hey, I see that you are Superman, but you obviously don't have the right color scheme and all this other stuff. Who are you? It's an introduction to be like, hey, here you go. This is what the character is. I have since, though, actually, I will say I have started sort of branching outside of that sort of comfort zone and doing, experimenting a little bit more. But that part of it is always still with me that I want to continue to do, is that especially when it comes to volunteering and stuff like that, I want to be able to, if I can embody a character that kids will know, or even if they don't know, that they can actually see, hey, these characters do come in different shapes, colors, sizes. Like, there's not a, these characters, this is a cookie cutter of what a superhero is supposed to look like. Right. That to me is the most important piece.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm glad you're taking that route to doing that, because like you said, the kids, need to see that. A lot of people try to downplay the importance of representation, but like, everybody needs it. That's just like, little girls need to see women being doctors and not just nurses, being doctors and partners at the firm, and not just the paralegals and the secretaries, being the CEOs and not just the receptionists, things like that. Right. So like that, everybody needs that. The different ethnicities need that. Different orientations need that. Different expressions of genders need that. So yeah, it's an important thing. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Green Lantern. One of my favorite stories of that is who is it? Andrew Michael Phillips. Big shout out to AMP, the AMP image out there. He always tells a story about how when he's dressed as Green Lantern, it's him as Green Lantern, and he has a friend who does Hal Jordan. Yeah, he was the first one, right? Or at least the first one that is in the comics, right? In
the comics, actually, well, let me put on my geeky glasses. Well, really? Alan Scott is the first one, and this is and then Hal Jordan is the Silver Age Green Lantern. That's when everything was shifting from sort of mystery and magic to everything is science fiction based. Everything needs to be like nuclear age stuff and all that. And so he came in then afterwards, and then he became the most prominent one. Everybody in the comic book sort of fandom, that's Green Lantern to them to an extent, but again, that shifted a lot with Justice League. So I got to give props to Paul Dini and Dwayne McDuffie, and I mean everybody that actually put into that show, and I don't know whether or not it was a decision that was made sort of as a, hey, we're going to put him in there, and they were like, okay, or if there was some sort of pushback on it, because I remember early on, in the early days of the internet, in the early days of internet trolling, I remember there were people that were upset about the fact that it wasn't Hal Jordan, and to me, I was just sort of like, you mean to tell me the other 5 white superheroes ain't enough for you?
Right.
you can't give us one?
What? Right. So yeah, Andrew, he had a friend with him being Hal Jordan. And one of the kids was like, "Why is Green Lantern white?" and we know that he was white before John Stewart came, but it's just so funny, and it just goes to show, like, everybody grows up with something different. We all like what we came in on, and anything after that is like we on that get off our lawn stuff. Just like with me with Transformers, like I accept it now. somewhat begrudgingly, I've grown in this, but like before, I'd be like, if your favorite Transformer is Bumblebee, but it's the Camaro Bumblebee, I'm not even trying to hear it. But I have to accept that that's what a lot of kids came in on, and that's okay. You got kids who be like, kids that'll watch they watch the new Netflix version.
Yeah.
I haven't heard this, but I'm pretty sure it happened somewhere. Why is Bumblebee talking?
Yeah, that's true.
Bumblebee has always had a voice.
Yeah, that's true. And something, and I will say actually, and the thing is that, like, I feel like that still sort of lingers on, and it is. I mean, everybody sort of internalizes and not internalizes, but everybody sort of it puts their arms around like something that they really like. Like if you're a fan of this particular character and somebody changes that thing about that character, there's a personal side of you that identifies it, and so in a weird way they are messing with your identity. Right. I will tell you, like, the example for me, to be honest, was Batman Beyond. Batman, I was a huge Batman fan for several years. And when Batman Beyond came out, and it wasn't a legacy character, it wasn't Dick Grayson, it wasn't actually Tim Drake, it wasn't like, it's this other kid who has nothing to do with him. I flat out boycotted that cartoon. I was just like, nope, that's not Batman. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Batman in the future, and Batman's, and the funny thing about that is, actually, at the time, you have the 2020, hindsight is 2020. You watch the show and you're just sort of like, this is exactly in lockstep with what Batman's been doing for years. Right. Why was I so against it before? Exactly. Batman's been taking kids and making them into whatever wards and training them ever since the beginning. But for whatever reason, that was one thing, actually, that just for whatever reason, I was just like, I don't agree with this. Why isn't it somebody else? Why isn't it one of these legacy characters? Why isn't it these guys? Why is it this random person? And it's funny because then they did that episode of Justice League where they reveal that, spoiler for an episode that came out like 10, 15 years ago. But then they reveal that he is a genetic clone of Bruce Wayne, that they basically messed with him. If you didn't know that, Myron, I need to send you that episode, because I'm telling you, that was the episode. I sat and watched that episode, and I was just sort of like, that was what turned me around a little bit. And I was just sort of like, okay, I can accept it. I'm good. It's acceptable to me now. But when the cartoon first came out, there were people that were like, oh my gosh, it's a really great cartoon. They really, like, the story is really well structured, and it's got a weird sort of darkness to it, and it seems to fit well with the animated series. I was like, nah, man, nah. Bruce Wayne, I don't care if Bruce Wayne retires, but he should be passing that mantle to those 3 other boys that have been with him forever today. Right?
Yeah, I kind of had the same thing when X-Men Evolution came out. Like, I didn't have that strong of a reaction, but I was just like, whatever. I'm not going to really give it a chance, because me being a lot more persnickety about it back then, I'm like, okay, why is are Wolverine and Storm the older members, and then
everybody else is
Black
like
Fox
teenagers?
and
Yeah,
younger ones. This should be the other way around. Blah blah blah. And I go back and watch it as an adult. I'm like, this was actually legit, especially if you got deeper into the seasons. It got more serious. It got darker. I'm like, I regret not giving this a chance when I was not when I was coming up, but I think it was 2000, 2001. So this
it was somewhere around there. Yeah,
right on the heels of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can like or hate on that some a little bit later.
But that's and it's exactly the point that you're trying to make, is that that you made, is that it's not ours for our generation. And so I've learned over time, and with what I hope is maturity. that you know, there's going to be things that come out that are not for me, but that doesn't taint my love of that thing. Exactly. So if somebody comes out and says, you know, we're going to redo any other character, let's just pick throwing something out, we're going to redo Wolverine and we're going to do this and the other, you know, I may not like it, I may not agree with it, I may not agree with what the direction that they're going, but ultimately they have to, it's just like anything else, it evolves. You know, and especially with comic books even more so are cyclical. You have this character here one day, then he or she is over here, but then it goes right back to this. And you know, if you are a comic book reader who's been reading for any length of time, you see that. And that's the reason why sometimes when people get out of, I mean, I feel like a lot of times it's just people trolling, but when people get so bent out of shape when they introduce a new aspect to a character, like recently with Jonathan Kent being bisexual. I sit there and I'm like, you realize that this is actually, again, this is part of their character, and again, speaking to representation, that's exactly, you don't get offended by the fact that that's something that's being highlighted. You know, the fact of the matter is that if that character is going to be Superman, just as sure as tomorrow the sun will rise, Clark Kent will be Superman again, because that's just the way it is, because that's the way the legacy itself was. I remember when I came to that realization, when I finally snapped for me, was when you know, several years back now, they reintroduced Barry Allen and Hal Jordan after they had been killed and they had been replaced by Kyle Rayner and by Wally West. There was a part of me that was just like, why? Like, for me, the characters that they had instituted were the ones that I was just like, this is great. DC is doing something where they're taking a character, this is a legacy character, and this is who's taking the mantle. And then somewhere down the line, somebody else will take the mantle. Why are we regressing back to these other two guys that died already? But I realized that, again, it's because it's cyclical. If you go back to before that character, that was a cycle again as well. We're gonna have this character's the main guy or the main woman, and then later on, boom, it's not that person anymore. It went back, it reversed again.
Yeah, people have to realize whatever era you came in on, there have been cycles, there have been reiterations before that. So unless you started reading comics at the dawn of comic time, something has changed before you got in. Okay, you can't just be like, well, anything before I came in is trash. And what was there when I got in is the golden, and anything after sucks. Like, you're free to not like this and not like this, but you don't get to like say that's just trash and only what you like is the real thing. Like, you know, I came in on Psylocke being, you know, sexy Asian babe, onesie bikini Psylocke, but I also put in, you know, going back and rereading back when she was British and just had the dyed purple hair. She wanted to fight, but she didn't have the skill or the strength to do it. She had the pink and purple body armor. So I'm like, that's not my Psylocke, but I respect that Psylocke because I know what she went through to get to the one I came on, and then what came after.
Right.
Like, so it's going back and realizing that so many things have changed, and they're gonna change and keep changing and keep changing,
and it's cyclical. And the funny thing about that is I was listening to a podcast. Our friends, Dr. Law, has the things we like, things we hate. And I always tell Dr. Law, when I'm listening to the podcast, I always text him, because I'm just like, I want to give my opinion, but I realize that I'm only listening to it. I can't give my opinion to it. Nobody's listening to me. But this last one actually was really interesting, and there was a lot of interesting debate with it, and it was the conversation come up about this new He-Man actually being like, hey, this character is not the same character that I remember,
right?
And it got me thinking. I was just sort of like, but it's the same thing. Like if you don't have to be a historian. I do like history. I do like mythology, which probably informs a little bit my love of comic books. But if you even look at that and look at some of the stories told over time, you see that they evolve and the characters change, and the characters even actually, one time they were like this, but then some other person reinterpreted that character and did it a little bit this way, and somebody reinterpreted the character and did it this way. It's part of the human experience that when we tell stories and we sort of incorporate whatever part of us is important and whatever informs who we are into that story. So you can't tell a story about Hercules. If you wanted to take the story of Hercules, you can't say, well, this is a guy that basically is walking around in a loincloth and he was killing, this, that, and the other. If you were coming into it and you're someone in this era right now writing a Hercules story, you're going to create situations and circumstances that educate where you came from, or speak to where you came from, and say this is what Hercules tasks were. He had to go and do this. He had to clean out the internet servers over here, and he had to do this. Like that's what it's informed by your own experiences. So whenever people get so hung up on characters or shows or whatever, I'm just like, I get it, and don't get me wrong, I completely empathize, because I've been there myself. I've been there where there's certain things that I'm like, I don't like that. But I would never take anybody else's enjoyment, because somebody else may look at it and be like, that's the greatest thing ever. And I'll be like, okay, well, hey, it is what it is. If you like it, it is what it is. I'm not gonna throw any particular people under the bus, but some people like that Justice League cut. I didn't think much of it, but I'm not gonna tell anybody else. Hey, if they love that Justice League cut, that Snyder cut, by all means, love it. Love your 4 hours of movie. Me personally, I was just sort of like,
I had to watch it in parts, man. I was like, you can't.
I did the marathon. I stuck it through. I went 4 hours strong.
That's a tough steak right there. You got to take your time. It's good, but you can't finish it that quick.
No, and I will agree with that. I will say, actually, and this is probably the deviation in which excuse me, we're talking about geek stuff. Looking at you, I even missed my stuff. Get back. So that movie, I made it. I sat down on like a Saturday or a Sunday, and I was just like, I'm gonna watch this movie. I think I started it somewhere around 3 or 4, and I said, I'm gonna watch it all the way through the end. I'm not gonna stop. I'm just gonna watch it. And I realized that somewhere during watching the movie, it started feeling like a chore. And at that point, I knew. I was like, regardless of whatever the quality of the movie is, if you're watching a movie or watching a movie, TV show, anything, if it starts feeling like a chore, then that's a problem, because that means actually that my mind is wandering enough where I'm just like, man, I gotta be doing something else with this time. And again, and it wasn't that I didn't appreciate what they did in the story. It wasn't that I didn't appreciate the some of the things that they added to the movie, but I think overall I was not as impressed as I felt other people were like, this is the greatest thing ever put to film. Oh my goodness. I was just sort of like, I mean, I guess, I mean, if that's how you feel about it, that's great. But for me personally, I mean, I thought it was aight.
Yeah. Cool.
I'll give it a firm aight.
A firm
aight.
That's a rating now. Aight. Yeah.
If I ever get into as a movie critic, that's gonna be one of my things. I give it a firm aight.
Side. Yeah.
Side.
All right. So I want to circle back to, I know you mentioned before you were talking about, when we were talking about representation, you were talking about how you would do volunteer work with your cosplays. What got you into doing volunteer work with that, and how important is that to you?
It's really important, and I actually got introduced to the volunteering piece. A friend of mine, Rob Brayton, and the cosplay local organization, Cosplay Volunteers of Atlanta.
Okay.
Where they were like, hey, we happened to meet at a con. It was sort of a random meeting. Like we sort of struck up a conversation. He was dressed up as the old man from Up. And he was just like, hey, you should consider, volunteering. We do this volunteer stuff. We do hospital visits and all that other. And I had, up until that point, I really hadn't found a charitable thing that I can do as an adult, that I felt passionate about. I've sort of been around it, like in the general sphere of being around, charities overall. Yeah. But never actually got myself involved, never got involved into volunteering or anything like that. And so at first, admittedly, I'll say this up front, admittedly, it was just like, maybe if I volunteer, I have a way to use my costumes not only one time a year. Because again, if you're going to cons, you're doing that once, twice a year, and then that costume's going back in the closet. Exactly. I'm like, maybe I can actually go ahead and do it with that. But as I went to my first, maybe second event, it started coming back to me about why, when I got into cosplay, what I wanted to do and how I can pivot that to, again, make sure that there's representation, and that when I go out to events and different children see me, they can see this character and say, here's a character, this character of color next to this other character, and not only in equal footing, but again, that they can see it as part of the norm, not just an outlier kind of thing. Exactly. It's part of the norm of what they would see. It's like a weird, not weird, but sort of like an outlier. And so, that really got me motivated to really continue to volunteer and to continue to, go to events to make sure that, hey, there was this character's here, this character actually that is another show of representation. And again, it's a great platform for me to be able to, if someone doesn't know the character, I can introduce them to the character. Right. Even if my intent isn't necessarily that they're going to go buy a comic book tomorrow, they can at the very least say, there's a superhero, and this is a superhero that exists, and actually that actually is one. It's not just a made-up superhero. It's a situation of tokenism. It is actually, this is a character that, within the context of where we are, is again the norm. Yeah. And that really got me motivated more and more and more. And then a little indie movie, you may have heard of it, called Black Panther came out. And I remember saying, I'm going to go ahead and invest in a Black Panther costume, because That's again, this is a character that is showing up prominently in a movie, is headlining a movie. Now, granted, I will tell you, I had no idea at the time. I don't think a lot of people had any idea. Maybe some people, maybe there were people that did, but I certainly didn't have any idea that it was going to be the touchstone that it was.
Yeah.
Because immediately after that, because I think Civil War did sort of give us a little taste of it, but it wasn't like Black Panther. Like Black Panther came out and it just blew everything up. That was having Black Panther come out and having that character have such prominence. It was, my gosh, it was absolutely amazing. And doing, again, volunteering, kids immediately, they're like, I know who that is. Parents too, I know who that is. And the other sort of added perk to it was it's sort of funny. The added perk was I'd have parents come up and be like, if I'm in full costume, no skin is exposed, they'd be like, so you black in there? You black? I just want to make sure I'm not talking to some dude and I'm like, no, man, here you go. Pull the thing back. I mean, obviously I don't look like Chadwick. God rest his soul, and I don't look like Chadwick. I wish I did. Right. But yeah, that was again, it was amazing. Just the amazing the kids, and again, kids and adults, how much they absolutely just love that character. So it was again another opportunity for me to be like, okay, and then I was also able to segue that cosplay, the volunteering, or at least my motivations for volunteering. I was able to segue that to say, if we can't, and this is something actually Rob Brayton would say to, I'm quoting him. This is not my own words. It'd be like, if they can't go to Disney, like say for example, we would go to Choa and visit. If they can't go to Disney, we can bring Disney to them. If they can't go to any of the theme parks to see any of these characters, we can bring that to them. And that was one of the things I took to heart, was being able to, doing hospital visits, heck, even doing just events, outdoor events, and people, like whether, fun runs and stuff like that. The fact is, you will have a segment of people that don't have the ability or the opportunity to go to Disney and go to a theme park and look at these, look at the attractions and look at these characters. This is their gateway to them, and they can see it. And it harkens a little bit back to, me being a kid and imagining what I would be like if I was a kid now, if it was 10-year-old me meeting myself or meeting Black Panther when I was that age, how my mind would have just been like, it would have just blown my mind. And so if I can bring that to somebody else, that's an amazing feeling. That's just, it's just great to be a part of that. And not in an egotistical kind of way, because again, it's just for me, especially with Black Panther, I think more so than Green Lantern. Black Panther, all they see is the outside. They don't see me. They're not going to remember, hey, that was this guy. I recognize his face. Green Lantern is a little bit different because my face is exposed. But with Black Panther, it was just like they could say, I met Black Panther.
Right. They didn't meet a guy. I mean, and you're big enough where they could be like, that's an imposing Black Panther right there, right? So it's just like they didn't meet somebody dressed as Black Panther. They met Black Panther.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about that. Being able to do that character is, again, with Green Lantern, I could, sort of, in a way, sort of, again, because that's an animated character until, they introduce him into a actual movie version. So you can still, you can sort of, work with the disbelief a little bit, because you could sort of say that's the way I look when I'm drawn, but here I am the way I look in real life. Right. Whereas Black Panther, again, you see a movie, you see Chadwick Boseman, you automatically, that's the face you see, that's the person, and you can't take that away from. The same thing with Iron Man and Thor. You see that person, you see the face there. That's the face you're associating. The face you're associating with the character.
Gotcha. You know, I was thinking back to when you were explaining your first time at DragonCon, right? And you went to the big Marvel shoot, and you're seeing all of that. So going to one of those to running one of your own. The first, what was your first one? The Marvel Netflix shoot, I think, of
2017, I think. Although I think that wasn't the first one. The first one I did actually was a Superman shoot.
Okay.
And I'm so happy actually that we get to when we're doing these videos, because like I said, I'm gonna shout out everybody that helped me be able to continue to do what I'm doing. Because this one also I gotta give shout out. I gotta give a shout out to my friend Wiki. Wiki, she has been running the Wonder Woman shoot for I don't know how long. And I remember attending, not participating, but attending, because it became such a big event that it was just like year after year, you crowd this Ivy Park is crowded with all these Wonder Woman characters. And I remember going to her and sort of like, picking her brain before I decided I wanted to go ahead and do a shoot. I was just sort of like, it seems like there's a void here, because I was surprised that there wasn't a Superman shoot. I was just blown away by the fact. I was just like, if there was any other character that I could see having their own shoot similar to this, it would be Superman.
Right.
And I remember picking her brain and sort of asking her questions, and she was just absolutely such a sweetheart. She was just sort of super encouraging and being like, yeah, do it. I mean, yeah, you should totally go in for it and do it the way you want. And she was very, supportive of that. So when I did actually decide I was going to go ahead and do it, I coordinated with Dr. Law and Dr. Goodnight, and I was just like, listen, I think I want to go ahead and do the shoot. Dr. Law's photo lab was just like, yep, let's do it. They were super supportive. They were, my gosh, they were by far, I mean, just amazing partners. And we were just like, okay, we're going to put it on the schedule. We're going to let's throw it out there. Let's see what happens. And the turnout for that was, I was surprised, of the turnout itself, because again, you never know. You're putting something out there. It could be 2 people show up. It could be 90 people that show up. I was just like, okay, great, cool. And so it was a pretty decent turnout. It was for a first shoot. It was amazing the amount of people that were there, because we had enough time and enough liberty to be a lot more flexible than a lot of the bigger shoots. We could be a lot more casual than the bigger shoots. And so that was my first introduction into, let me go ahead and run a shoot. The next year I was just like, you know what? Let's create another shoot. Let's do another one. And then I got the bright idea of doing the Netflix shoot, which was right at the high point, I think, of the Netflix Marvel shows, where we had just, I think, ended like season 1 of Jessica Jones, and maybe season 2 of Daredevil, season 1 of Jessica Jones. Maybe actually, I think we had started Luke Cage at that point. I know it was before Iron Fist.
About it,
yeah. And so I know you were there, so I'm going to tell this story for everybody else. I was late to my own shoot, and I did not expect the turnout that was there, because I am so used to the bigger shoots being like the big Marvel shoot, the big DC shoot. And I was just sort of like, I was figuring it was going to be like the Superman shoot. It was like, 20 people will show up, and we'll do the same thing. We'll be super casual. We'll have fun with it. And I I had gone back to my hotel because I had done something else and I was in another character and I had to change it to Luke Cage. And I come back and I was already running about 10, 15 minutes late. And I get there and I look over to the steps. To anybody who's never been to DragonCon, we, in the Hilton, there's 2 sets of steps that we do all of our big shoots at. I look at the steps and I see this crowd of people there. And I'm like, my first instinct, Smoove, I'm not gonna lie. My first thought was, why are all these people in my? I reserved that spot. Why are they in my spot?
That's my seat, player. That's my seat.
I was just like,
right here,
what is going on here? I'm about to pop off.
Right.
And I get there, and as the closer I get, the closer I start recognizing characters from the Netflix shows, and I'm like, that's my shoot.
Wow.
And I was not prepared. I was not ready. And when I got there, I wanted the earth to just swallow me whole because I was just like, man, I'm late to my own shoot. And there is this huge crowd of people who were there waiting. They had already started without me. Jason, actually, who was doing the shoot for us from Chicago Comics, he was just like, I'm going to go ahead and get started. But I got there and at the time, it was such an amazing feeling because I felt, especially my love of those Netflix shows, I was just like, wow, there's so many people who were just as into this. Like, I knew that it was popular, but I was so, yes! So it was a really cool experience. It was very, very surreal. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, I walked through those glass doors and I'm like, who are these people? What is going on here? Somebody needs to answer me why these people up here on these stairs. I already reserved these stairs.
Wow, yeah, that was one of the highlights of my con that year. Just seeing, I think it's just how, maybe it's because it's the ground level heroes. Yeah, because of it being Netflix and like so many, you don't have the super elaborate costumes. You have so it's just like people, I guess, can relate so much more to all of those characters, and there's so many not hero characters that like there was a few Foggies in there. There was a
yes.
I don't know if it was I forget the woman who was partnered with Daredevil and Foggy. I forget her name.
That is Skipper Kim, I think is her tag in Instagram. But she is, my God, Kimberly is she is the biggest sweetheart. My gosh, she was, as a matter of fact, I want to say, I could be wrong, my memory, I could be mixing some of the stuff. I want to say, actually, they were staying at the Hilton, her and her boyfriend, and I needed to change, and that was what I want to say that's what I was changing into. And they were like, yeah, just come up to the room, and we'll give you a key, and we'll go ahead and let you, just go ahead and change upstairs, and then just, come downstairs and whatever. And then I walked into this crowd of, what seemed like 100 people just waiting on me, and I'm just like,
waiting on you, man.
Sorry.
Dude, dressing up as I can't remember his name now.
Cottonmouth?
Yes. I don't know why I can't remember my own character's name. One of the
That's because you did so well. It's like remember your own name. You just sometimes you don't dial your own number. Do you dial your own number? No, you don't. So you forget it.
Yeah, I think that was the best decision I made the whole con. Cause
oh my gosh, you looked so freaking amazing. Especially that crown again, chef's kiss. That little crown, chef's kiss. That was a nice, and the rocket launcher. I'm sorry, I take that back. The rocket launcher on top of that.
Did I tell you the story behind that rocket launcher?
No, you did not. I'm ready to hear it. Let's go.
I didn't plan it this way, but it's funny that I said the story behind the rocket launcher, like literally behind the rocket launcher. So as I'm packing that weekend, so I'm looking for a pair of black pants, and there's So I found my pants, and I forgot why I grabbed that particular pair of pants.
Yeah.
I didn't realize until I had got dressed that the zipper was broken on those pants.
That's cosplay for you, man.
I cannot zip those pants up at all. So I think I ended up using a safety pin to just at least kind of keep it somewhat together.
Yeah.
So every time I posed, I had the rocket, like I actually borrowed the rocket launcher because I couldn't find one that was, because I couldn't just get no little kitty looking one from like.
Yeah, you couldn't get like a little one to be like whatever. It had to be at least like, it had to look like a rocket launcher.
So, and it wasn't even the one that was in, because I wanted, because I think it was like a Stinger missile launcher, because it looked like something that Solid Snake would wear around.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, let me get something. So somebody, I had a friend from my G.I. Joe crew that let me borrow it. So every time that I posed standing straight up with the rocket launcher right here, cover up my fly. Nobody knew. Fake it till you make it, man. Fake it till you make it. That's cosplay. Fake it till you make it. There's a story behind the rocket launcher.
Fake it till you make it, man. That's the story of cosplay, man. Just keep going and just fake it till you make it.
But yeah, so what I want to ask you about cosplay, and I don't even know how I want to transition in this, but I know this is something that we both want to touch on because I think a lot of people can relate to it.
Yeah,
when it comes to mental health, both in regular life and in cosplay, I know you got a story to tell with that. So what was how important is mental health to you in every aspect of life?
I mean, mental health is paramount, and you have to be able to give yourself a break. So the story goes that actually, so we had set to do this recording this past weekend, and past, I think we were set for Friday night. Yeah. That night I had a panic attack. I had like an episode, and now it's not, if anybody asks me, actually I usually will volunteer this information anyway, but I suffer from panic attacks. I'm actually on medication for panic attacks, because I have high anxiety. It just, there's certain things that will trigger it, like for example, lack of sleep is something that's super important. I do a absolutely horrible job. I should be trying to at the very least get at least 6 to 7 hours of sleep. A lot of times I don't do that. It catches up to me, and then the bells start ringing. But I've been dealing with anxiety now for I think the better part of now, over 10 years, because I actually, before my daughter was born, I actually was put on a daily medication for anxiety, and it was I've always had an understand, or not always, let me not say that. For a long time now, I've had an understanding of mental health when it came to depression and stuff like that. Prior to being exposed to it, it was very much a thing. And this speaks a little bit also culturally, because I'm Latino, that a lot of, when it comes to mental health, is just sort of like, you just figure it out. Just, just sort of get it out of your system, do whatever. There isn't a real conversation about it being more than just get out of your funk, or just don't worry about it, just calm down. That there's a component of it that could very well be an imbalance in your system. It could be part of things that maybe perhaps you don't think are triggers, and trigger you for whatever, depending upon what your life's experiences are. It's, I feel sometimes people have the impression, people who know me more so from conventions and cosplay and stuff like that, I feel like they get the impression that I have a very positive, go-lucky, devil may care kind of attitude.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really, it doesn't always rear its head, but it's there. It's always there, and it's always going to be there. It's a makeup of part of who I am, and it's again, it's important for people to know to ask for help and to be honest. And that's why even when we had talked about this interview before and I had reached out to you literally 15 minutes before, and I'm so sorry about that, but I was just like, I was not in the right state of mind. I was just completely, like, all the bells were going at that point. And I just, it is something that, again, it is a struggle. It is actually something that isn't, people need to understand that sometimes some of these ailments are visible ailments and aren't going to be present to everybody. Just because you see somebody in a certain way, in a certain situation, doesn't mean that they don't have struggles. And I think that's part of just the sort of how we empathize with other people as well, is that you can't just assume people are just like, oh, okay, we're, this person's always cool and always happy and always has a girl or a guy on their side and is always partying. They because I think we get lost in what we see now, in, like, especially with social media and Instagram and stuff like that. It's people see a life behind that other side of the screen,
and not the whole game, basically,
and not the whole thing. And so it is actually, and I mean, like, for me, again, it's actually, I have, thankfully, I will say thankfully, I think actually I'm able to manage, a lot of the episodes that I have, and for a very long time, I haven't had episodes. I think actually this last year, 2020, was really taxing that's why I think there's such an awareness of mental health, because this was just a taxing year for everybody emotionally. And it's just important that if you do find yourself that you are feeling that way, that you're feeling, this overurging anxiety or depression or anything, to ask for help, to start off. Maybe it's a conversation with your friend, with a family member that you trust. Maybe it's someone in your church. Maybe it's someone at your school. Maybe it's but it's important for you to acknowledge it, so that way you can start getting help for it, because it is, it's not something, most people can go at alone. I would say actually the majority of people can't just go at it alone. And sometimes actually it does also take medication. Sometimes it takes being able to have that sort of extra thing to help you be able to manage on a daily basis. I'd love to be able to say that I could be like, yeah, I don't have to take medication for any of this stuff. But the reality is that, if you're a person of faith, God created you perfect, but that doesn't mean that God did not, in that perfection, that there weren't imperfections and burdens that you carry to help forge and make your personality. So being created perfect doesn't mean that there weren't inherent design flaws, if you will, with it. So it's a thing that, like I said, it's a part of me. And it's something I'm super aware of. It's something sometimes in some weird way I also, in my own sort of trying to make sense and logic of it, and in the way my brain works when it comes to my life in panels, I call it my life in comic book panels. It's like having a spidey sense. It's like everything is amplified when you're having a panic attack, and you're just like, your spidey sense is going off and you don't know why.
Wow.
all joking aside, I mean, actually, that is true. There's a part of me that actually sort of, in my own way, some of my bringing myself down from that is to be like, it's sort of like you're sort of like your spidey sense, except it's not working right. It's just like it's telling you, it's warning you of danger. There's no danger. It's just not working right.
And you think it's coming from everywhere.
You think it's coming from everywhere. That's what I'm saying. Every time I would see those panels of Spider-Man, that's the first thing I think of. The little electrical squiggly lines. That's the first thing I think of when I have a panic attack. Is that somehow if people outside can see little squiggly lines coming off of my head? Yeah. Like,
hearing you say all that, especially going back to how you mentioned there's that stigma, you being Latino, like how that community says, oh well, just get over it, get out of your funk. And that had something similar with the African American community too. There's that stigma of we don't go to therapy or a lot of us grew up heavily religious. Go pray about it. You only need no medicine. God got you. I mean, and not that God don't got you, but you need help too. And it's not to say that those types of attitudes towards it are exclusive to particular communities. There's stigma around it in every community. It's just that if you being Latino, that's what you're used to. That's and same for me. That's what I'm used to. Everybody has the same thing a little different. Everybody has that. So it overall is not unique, but maybe the particular way it's branded, the particular way that it's stigmatized is just a little bit different in every community there. And I think all just leads to the fact that not enough people take it seriously. And even with different classes in society, it's like people expect a certain thing from certain people. Look back at in the Olympics, Simone Biles caught flag for stepping down, and everybody had something to say about, oh, she's not mentally tough, or she needs to just suck it up. Not realizing that if something wasn't right and she's in mid-air, that could lead to a broken bone, a snapped neck. More recently, Calvin Ridley, wide receiver for the Atlanta Falcons, he missed their game in London a few weeks back for it was branded as a personal matter, but then you find out later on it was a mental health break. Yeah. And we all can joke about that and just say that's an excuse, just the excuse we use now for missing work. But for some people, it really is a mental health break. That person might get that mental health break so they don't go off on somebody at the job and lose their job, Now he's stepped away indefinitely, and I haven't heard them myself, but I'm pretty sure there's some people out there running their mouth talking about, oh well, the Falcons need to just trade him, or he's suck. Oh yeah, he needs to just suck it up, blah blah blah. And I'm like, from someone homeless to somebody as high up as the president and anywhere in between, this can affect you. And I mean, I guess there are certain times you might be able to just say, oh, that person needs to suck it up. Cause like if you're in the heat of something, you might have to in that moment. But I don't think it's fair to just say to somebody, oh, because you have this status, because you have this amount of money, you need to just suck it up. You don't get mental health breaks. Yeah. And I think some people have made it seem like, oh, well, this is a new thing now. No, it's not a new thing now. People just dealt with it with alcoholism. People dealt with it with drugs. People dealt with it, domestic violence to their husband or wife. They dealt with it with all these other ways. They didn't know. They didn't even know it was a thing. They didn't even like somebody could have been. I'm rambling this one. You get what I'm trying to say, though.
No. I mean, I'm with you, and I actually, no, I don't think actually you're rambling. I think your point is solid. Is that we need to get away from. I think we're getting there little by little. That's a good thing. I think we are getting away from that a little bit, because I feel I've made it my point. For me personally, this is something I've started to institute for myself. Is being able to, openly say, without any kind of like sort of, for lack of a better way of putting it, sort of hesitation, if you are someone who is close to me, who is a close friend, and you're a man, I can tell you I love you.
Yeah.
Without any kind of like, oh my gosh, well, why are you, because it should never have been that way. It should never have been that if you care about somebody and they're of the same sex, that somehow saying I love you is too touchy-feely or too effeminate.
Yeah.
That makes no kind of sense whatsoever. That's and with the short amount of time that we have on this planet, there's no reason why, if I care about you and you are somebody that's near and dear to me, that I don't say to you, hey man, if we hang up the phone, hey man, I love you, man.
Yeah.
Because you don't get that opportunity back if, Lord forbid, something happens to you or to that other person. You don't get that opportunity. So I feel like these are the sort of stigmas and things that we are starting to, at the very least, I feel at least like we are starting to, as a society, bring to the forefront, to be like, you know what, this is something actually that we need to course correct. We need to make it where if people are having struggles in their lives with their mental health, that it's not a them problem. It's not just a them problem. Yeah. It is a problem actually that person needs help. The same way we treat, and I know that this is it's an argument that many people have had before. You treat cancer, or you treat actually an ailment with medication, and you say, hey, this is actually just because this is an intangible disease, doesn't mean that it's any less real than an infection. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean that you just say, oh, it's fine, you just change your attitude and you'll be fine. That's not reality, and that's not the way we should be treating each other as human beings. I don't think we were put on this planet to do that. We were not put on this planet to just be unsympathetic and be like, you're just, what you have is what you have, because my personal situation isn't that. And that's what we need to start getting out of assuming that because you haven't experienced it and you haven't gone through it, that must mean that person can't have that experience. Whether it's depression, anxiety, whether it's that person gets triggered by certain things. Again, your experience is your experience. That doesn't mean that person's experience isn't valid. It doesn't mean that at all. And I think I will say actually that this last year, that is one thing I think as a plus has been that's come of 2020, is that I think there's been a lot of inroads in seeing not only the ugly side of many people who have not been sympathetic, but it's brought it to light where people who are at least open to the idea of changing have seen it and seen what they've done and been like, I need to course correct that. I need to change that because what I'm doing is not the way I should be doing this. And my hope is that we can, we can keep pushing towards changing some of that stuff. And again, some of that is with the stigma. So I mean, if it makes people, if me saying, hey man, I have anxiety. I am actually medicated currently and on medication for anxiety. If that helps somebody else be able to be, oh, okay, that's that person actually that somebody I follow or somebody actually I'm friends with, and they said it and they I think actually I can feel more comfortable. If that helps them, then that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to go ahead and actually make sure that it's something that people are aware of, so people can know, again, not only because, hey, it can affect anyone, but also because it's okay. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to be, a perfect, everything is functioning, everything is the way it needs to be kind of thing.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned how a lot of these ailments are not visible. They're things that you're not going to be able to just immediately look at somebody and tell that they have it. I had a thought. I think not the last time, but the second last time that my family and I drove to see my mother-in-law down to Jacksonville. We were driving down, I think 75 somewhere, and drove past this big old F-150 looking truck, like the kind of truck you got to step up into, right?
Yeah.
And the truck had a handicap symbol on it, right?
Yeah.
And my immediate thought And I'll tell y'all, after how I tried to retract this thought in my head, because I realized, wait, this ain't right. And my immediate thought was, what handicapped person is driving this truck? Like, can't nobody that's disabled get into this truck. Then I had to stop and think, what do we automatically think of when we think of disabled? We automatically think of somebody who is physically like disabled. Like, well, a lot of it's still physical. Whether it's mental health, it's still physical. Anyway, you see how I'm processing through this in my head, like how much that thought wasn't right. Like, I automatically think, oh, this person has to have some kind of limp, or they have to be in a wheelchair, or they got to have something that keeps them from being able to walk if they got this handicap symbol. And it got me to thinking, maybe the fact that the handicap symbol is the fact that it's of someone in a wheelchair, maybe it didn't start out that way. And I don't think it's the cause, but it definitely doesn't help. We automatically have this thought of, if someone is disabled, it has to be something to where they can't walk, they can't run, they need help getting somewhere. It could be like, it's funny. I had a friend who, a salsa friend of mine, she had a handicap symbol on her car. I'm walking her back to her car we're leaving the event. It's in a restaurant, so like there's windows there, like anybody can see out of the parking lot. And I see that she's parked in a handicap spot. And right as my thought formed, girl, you ain't handicapped. Why you got a handicap spot? She props her leg up on the door and pulls her dress back and shows me that she has like a knee brace around her knee, and she had a knee replacement. Yeah. So in hindsight, I'm like, okay, I get it. In that moment, I was like, what the heck are you doing? Like, the fact that she just threw her leg up on it. And of course, she was a very attractive woman. Yeah. The fact that she's throwing her leg up on the hood, pulling the dress back, I'm like, put that down. But I bring up that story to say, like, we have this stigma of what handicapped is supposed to look like, what disabled is supposed to look like. Yeah. Just because my friend can hit the dance floor with me and I don't think nothing of it, that don't mean that she doesn't have some kind of disability. That just because somebody's disabled and living their best life at the con, just because they live in their best life at the con and may even be like, conventionally attractive and they got the biggest set of armor on, that doesn't mean they don't have something that's invisible that they're dealing with. Right. So,
and that's the thing, is that people automatically, and I think you're hitting it right on the head. I think that there's something that we automatically, everything that we do is informed by our experience. Yeah. So if I haven't lived it, then that must not be it. So if I can walk, then technically I'm not disabled. So that must mean that if you have that sticker, you must not be able to walk, because my life experience says that I can do this, and that must mean that you can't do it. And that's where some of that disconnect is that you have that symbol. You're right, it has a symbol. And I'll be honest, I'm surprised that there hasn't been a movement to change it to something else. But you're right. But there are so many other invisible ailments. People who have, for example, arthritis, and actually pain that's almost crippling. That's actually one that you can't see it. It may not be a brace, it may not be a hand brace, it may not be anything, but that is actually something that is their own struggle. And people I think what we can use more of is disconnecting ourselves from what we think is what it should be versus the reality of what it is. Yeah. And to tell you, Smoove, that I've had that thought too, is, I'm not gonna lie. I have a neighbor who has a yellow Corvette, and he has a handicap sticker. And the first thought that creeps into your mind is, you driving around in this sports car and you're handicapped, and then you have to edit. And I think this is the part that I think people need to be honest with themselves about, is that you have to, it's deprogramming it. Mm-hmm. That's where we have to, that's the part of where we are in all of this sort of woke and awareness, is deprogramming. You've got to be able to say, those thoughts have to stop, because that's not the reality. My reality is not everybody else's reality. And that actually, and my experience is not everybody else's experience. That person's experience is not my experience. So I can't go ahead and be like, man, he driving a Corvette, what a trimmed down,
he's like gaming the system or something, or he's
like
gaming people or something.
I'm like, what you doing driving around and again, that's the first sort of knee-jerk thought, until you edit that thought and you're like, no, that's not
exactly what that means. Yeah,
that's not what that means. And
you don't know what should be going on.
Yeah, there should be no assumption that's what that person's life is, and what is actually their struggle and their ailment and that cross that they have to bear. So there should never be a perception of that. I think it's human nature also to just, again, we operate under what we see, what's tangible, what we touch, and we automatically build a story around it, for lack of a better way of putting it. We see somebody and we say, this person's attractive, they must do this, or have this kind of like this. We're building a story in our heads that we have no clue about, but we are building it in our heads to say, this person has probably got, people fawning over them, and they must have it great, and they probably get out of bed and they're just like, everything is wonderful. And that's not the reality, but we interpret that reality because of what we see and what we feel are, that reality could mean, or what that reality is. And we're not in no multiverse, man. No. That may be the case in another universe, in the multiverse, in another variant.
Yeah, right.
But not in this one.
Nah. All right, so last serious question, then I'm gonna get into some random goofy stuff. So, looping anxiety, mental health, and back into cosplay. Have you ever had an anxiety attack at a con? And if so, what advice would you give to someone who has anxiety or any other kind of mental ailment that has to deal with that in the confines of like a big convention, dare I say DragonCon, because that'd be chaos. But yeah, if you've had that happen to you before, how did you deal with it, and how would you advise someone else to get through it there?
I have had it actually during while I've been in Black Panther, and it's happened. It's a cross between it's an anxiety attack that's brought on in a very odd. The reason it's claustrophobia. It's basically you put on that helmet, and for lack of a better way of putting it, because I have two versions of I have the Civil War version, and then I also have the Black Panther version. The Civil War version, my visibility is limited to, I can't see anything here, I can't see anything down here. It really is just straight ahead for the most part, and I have to turn my head all the way or look down to be able to see certain things. And there's a certain amount of claustrophobia. So I've gone to events, and I put on, and those first few minutes, I put it on, and there is a certain amount of sort of like, you start breathing fast, you start like, you're like, because it feels like the walls are closing in on you. For me personally, I have actually, in a weird way, I've turned that where it's so almost like I imagine myself in a dark room, and that I can see everybody, but nobody else can see me. So if I make silly faces in my mask, nobody can see it, only me. And so that's the way I've been able to turn it. But my advice to anybody else is, if you feel like you're in a situation like that you don't have, that's been my coping mechanism that's worked for me. That may not work for everybody, but if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're like, listen, man, I'm freaking out because I'm feeling overwhelmed, there's too much stuff, it's okay to step away. It's okay to just leave that situation and go somewhere else. It's okay to tell, whoever you're with, if you're with somebody, hey, I need to step away, and I need to just go ahead and take a breather, and just, I can't be in this space right now. You should never feel that you need to compromise yourself because of what you think other people's expectations are. And I think in a con situation, it's slightly different, because in the volunteering situation, one of the things we would try to, in my time with the Cosplay Volunteers of Atlanta, I actually also became an admin for some time, for a few years.
Uh-huh.
One of the things we always were and even to this day, it's actually still instituted, is if you don't feel right and you don't feel okay, you are okay to step away. You're okay to grab somebody actually and say, hey, listen, I need to step away. Can you come with me? That is actually, you should never feel at any point that you need to keep up appearances, that you need to keep up a character. There is no. And the same thing actually in cons. In cons, it's slightly different, because I think sometimes there are many people who are outsiders to it. Like, I think people within the community sort of understand, but you get people who are coming into it who are spectators. And so as spectators, you know, all of us who are cosplayers have been through this. You sit down, you want to eat, and somebody will walk up to you. You have a sandwich ready, locked and loaded to come in, and somebody's like, hey, can I get a picture? And you're just like,
right. And because
I'm like, yeah, you can. As soon as I finish this sandwich, I tear the sandwich up.
They don't realize how rude they're being at the time. Like,
right.
I give the grace because they don't know that. Yeah.
And that's just it. There is that sort of detachment of, almost like, the best way I can put it is like, if you ever heard any of the people who perform at Disney, like any of the people who perform characters, there is almost like this weird sort of thought process where people are like, they walk up to you, they're like, well, you're dressed up, you must want to have pictures, you must want my attention.
Yeah.
And they sometimes feel like there's an obligation of you to be on because they're coming to you.
Yeah.
And so in the same instance, like I said, with volunteering, you know, step away. If you're in a con, same thing. If somebody's coming up to you and saying, hey, I want to grab a picture, it's okay. It is perfectly okay to say, I really can't, you know, I need to step away. Or if you feel like it's something where after stepping away, you can come back to it. You can say, hey, listen, can I just circle back with you in a few minutes? But do whatever is comfortable for you. Do not let anybody else's expectations dictate and compromise what makes you feel comfortable. Like, don't let anybody else compromise that. If you're in a situation where whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, whatever the case is, and you just need to get out of that situation, and that's going to help you, then do it.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. So wrapping up here, couple of random questions for you.
All right. Is this the what's it called? Rapid fire?
Yes.
Rapid fire. All right.
So, of all the characters that you do, the ones that don't have a movie or a TV show yet,
all right.
If you could pick any one of them and give them a movie, who would it be?
Who would I give one that has not had a movie yet?
Right.
Like movie or TV show.
Yeah, movie or live action TV show.
Okay. All right. So it's sort of a toss-up. I'm making the pro and con list in my head, because I have the two in the chamber. I'm trying to think of which one I would like to see more than the other one. Honestly, I think actually I'd like to see a Blue Marvel movie, only because I think his story is so, it would be such a good, compelling Marvel movie. You know, there's parts of it that would be a little derivative of other things, like, for example, and this is not a spoiler, by the way, I saw Eternals this week, and this is not a spoiler because it's already obviously in the trailers that you've seen this, but if you haven't seen the trailer, then I'm sorry, then I would tell you skip the next 30 seconds. You know, the Eternals, and there have been other movies where there's a quote unquote secret history of the universe, where things have happened and Loki is the same way. There are things that are happening, but they haven't been as part of the canon or part of the regular MCU, and so it's almost a retcon, if you will, as we like to use in the comic book terms, of like, this is what happened. You didn't know what happened, but now we're telling you what happened. And so with Blue Marvel, I'd be interested to see because it's a very, if for anyone who is watching who has never picked up the book or picked up the miniseries, do yourself a favor and do it, because it's an awesome take on a couple of things. It's an awesome take on what I would consider to be sort of like the Superman archetype, but it also is its own thing, and it actually speaks to it answers the question, what would happen if Superman were black? I think it's really, if you read it, that tells you what read the story. Just read the story. But Blue Marvel, I think, it was between Blue Marvel and actually in Val-Zod Superman. But I think Val-Zod Superman, part of my reason for not wanting him just yet, even though I believe that's the one that Michael B. Jordan is producing, is because I honestly like Henry Cavill's Superman. I'd like to see more of his, and I'm just a little disappointed that that we're not going to see more of his, and that there's sort of the decision they're making is, oh, we're just going to go ahead and put in another one, which again is fine. I just
a little too soon. Just a little too soon.
It's just not too soon for Val-Zod. It's just, like I said, I feel like they didn't give this Superman enough to, for lack of a better way of putting it, not only modernize him for current audiences, but then I think it would make, to me, having that Superman is like having a steak. Don't read any more into it. It's like having a steak. If you cook it and prep it well, it's great. But you know what makes it even better is if afterwards you have something actually for those wine drinkers, a nice wine to pair it with, or for you dessert lovers, a dessert that follows afterwards. Because I feel like if you establish the overarching things of what a modern Superman is, and you establish it well, when you bring Val-Zod into it and you do its own story, you can actually take that character and say, okay, you saw all these other sort of archetypes of Superman, great. Here's what we're doing here, and this is actually where you can sort of really see the differences in this particular scenario. I think, the only real sort of Superman that we've had for a long, at least, I mean, we've had obviously different interpretations of Superman. We had Smallville, we had, obviously the Reeve Superman, we had Lois and Clark, we had all these other interpretations of Superman. But like I said, since Smallville, the Henry Cavill one is the last one that we've had like in a modern sort of setting. So personally for me, that's the short answer that's the long answer is Blue Marvel. Gotcha. It's a good story. Go check it out.
Gotcha. So follow up to that one then. Who is playing Blue Marvel in said movie?
Ooh. That's a good one. All right, so who's playing Blue Marvel if I was casting the Blue Marvel movie?
That is a hard one.
It is, because I don't want to do the for lack of a better way of putting it, the flavor of the month. Because I think people will be like, oh, why not a Jonathan Majors? Or why not an Idris Elba? Yeah. And like, I feel like, yeah, that's cool, but I would like somebody else to get a shot at it that wouldn't normally get a shot at something like that. And I'm trying to think of who because I the way I envision that movie is that it would be part of it would be a period piece that builds into modern day. And to be honest, you know, I'm not trying to be discriminate against anyone at any age. My first pick a couple of years ago would have been Denzel, and granted, that sort of flies in the face.
Yeah,
that flies in the face of the flavor of the month kind of thing. Right. But part of the reason why is because I feel like Denzel would work well not only in the era in which the book starts, but then the modernization of the character later on. Yeah. So I feel like he would have that timelessness that really works. I feel like some of the other actors, and not to say like, for example, like Idris Elba wouldn't have it too, but I almost wanted I'd almost want to cast somebody lesser known, not unknown, not flat out unknown, but someone lesser known, so that way they can inhabit that character and they can make it their own character. Because the last thing you want is to grab somebody and then watch the movie and be like, well, that's this person, that's this actor.
Yeah.
You know, that's the one thing I wouldn't want. I want it to be somebody that's going to come in and be like that character, and you're going to be like, that's Blue Marble. Gotcha.
Now, I saw maybe a couple weeks ago, and ultimately I think this actor is a little too old to do this, but just he would have been the perfect actor if he was younger and more in shape. Ernie Hudson.
I can see Ernie Hudson too.
Yeah, like he fits that.
Yes. Yeah. I can see, Ernie Hudson. I know it'll come to me later, somebody else that I would say, yep, that's the one. Right now it's not. Like I said, the first one would have been Denzel. Like I said, I know it's super cliche to sort of like make it be, just put it in those terms, but I mean, for now, Denzel's my placeholder until I can find somebody else that I'm like, you know what, that's
our story. We're sticking to it. Dang it.
Yeah.
All right, so not your. I guess this could kind of be the same thing. I'm just giving it a different name. Not your bucket list cosplay, but your blank check cosplay. You've been given a blank check for nothing but cosplay, but it got to be one cosplay.
Ooh. So, if I had a blank check cosplay that would allow me to do everything that I'd want to do with it,
like, keep in mind, this blank check, even anything associated with the cosplay, like if you gotta pay for storage for it, if you gotta
I didn't even think that deep into it. I thought we were just talking about like the actual cosplay itself. We're talking about storage and everything. That's great.
Because that's the stuff where I'm like, I want to do this. Do I have the room to keep this in my house?
That's true. So I gotta say it would be Goliath from Gargoyles. That would be, yes, because I would not only do a bodysuit, like a muscle shaded bodysuit, but I would also incorporate some kind of mechanized wings, and also have the stilt talons and stuff like that. Just recently I saw an amazing one by Eric the Smoke. He did one, and he's one of my like cosplay, like, senpais. Him, geez, I can't remember his name. Knight, but I'm trying to remember what Knight.
Night Mage. Yeah.
That's Night Mage, him, Belshare. She was another one that when I first actually like sort of started at cosplaying, I was just like that lady she does an amazing job.
Everything she does.
you know, Bar Fox. Although he'd be too bashful to be like, he'd probably tell me no, whatever. But these are people that I look to, and I'm like, and it's funny to me because every time I think of a cosplay, I've gotten into the habit now, and I'm not saying that this is happening. I realize that Night Mage doesn't come to my house, and I realize that Eric the Smoke doesn't come to my house to see what I'm doing. But every time there's a cosplay that I'm thinking about that I'm like, I haven't seen that. I think I want to do it. And then a couple of days later, I go on Instagram and there they are. And I'm like,
just fight air.
You're already. I can't top that. And not that I'm saying this is a competition. Nobody has to top anybody. Yeah. I just want to make sure that they clear that. But obviously, when you got the people that you look up to and they do it, you sort of in your own mind, your own competitiveness with yourself.
Yeah.
You look at that and you're like, man,
like you're still
going to knock that out. They're already just like decimated that cosplay. But whatever. I'm just going to go ahead and stick to something else, some other small time character.
Yeah.
But I do like actually doing a couple of more obscure characters, or not as like popular characters and stuff like that. And so, and I've also started venturing into mashups. That's sort of my new thing now, is mashups. I like mashups. I did a mashup of Luke Cage and Wolverine, which I really like.
About that, I was like, I seen it. You know,
I did that. I just recently did a mashup of Blade and Batman, which was one that I was just sort of like, I don't know how that hasn't happened yet, but I need to just go ahead and do it.
Might as well be the first, right?
And then I'm also thinking about I'm thinking about some other, like I said, right now that's my kick right now, is I want to do a couple of I want to experiment with a couple of mashups
with all the things,
mash up some of the stuff, because I am a sucker for mashups. I was a huge fan of Amalgam Comics when Marvel and DC in the 90s decided they were going to go ahead and do a co-publishing, you know, and there was not the competition that there is right now, where now they will never do anything together. Yeah. They won't even do crossovers anymore. But I loved the concept of that. I love that they took your peanut butter and your chocolate, and they were like, hey, we're going to go ahead and take these two things and mash them. And here you go. Here's a new character.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my blank check cosplay, because I would have mechanized wings and everything. I'd be like, it'd do everything except for fly. And if I could fly, I'd do that too. That was that blank check included some kind of anti-gravity thing that allowed me to fly. I'd do that too. And allow me to climb walls. I'd do that too.
Yeah, just minus the turning into stone.
Minus the turning. No, actually, I'm saying if there was a way to have it where somehow, whether it's, I don't know if it's a color changing fabric or something like that, that if you hit it with a certain light or if you wet it, it starts turning into a different color so it looks like stone, I'd do that too. That's my blank check. Like, it would have all the perks.
All the things.
Everything.
Cool.
I would almost do the same thing, actually. I wish there was something like that also with that'd be a cool Zartan, is to get a fabric that actually that changes color, that somebody throws water on you like the action figure, and then the color changes.
He didn't like sunlight either, right?
He did not. It was sunlight. That's right. Not water. It was sunlight. Sunlight, actually. You put him in the action figure in the sun, and it would change color.
How old were you when you found out that thing on his head was a hood and not his hair?
I always thought it was a hood. I always, from the moment, actually, I remember watching the cartoon, I remember thinking it was a hood, because I just figured it was actually like it was part of his, like, sort of the harness thing that he had, and it was just sort of a hood that was over it. I didn't think it was his head at all. I figured actually that, I mean, think about it. Most of the main guys in Cobra all had headpieces. Yeah. Destro, face fully covered. Cobra Commander, face fully covered. Zartan, head covered. The only Dr. Mindbender was one of the only ones that only had a monocle. That was it. Everybody else, Serpentor, huge cobra on his head. All these guys,
Major Blood, the helmet and the eye patch.
Which one?
Major Blood.
Major Blood. See what I'm saying? Apparently, all of these people needed to have hats on. Every single one. For whatever reason, they all had to have.
Man. Villain life.
That's what it is. Mindbender was the only one that was like, nah, man, I'm good, bro.
Yeah,
I'm good. I'm just gonna keep my monocle right now. That's all I need. I don't need these hats.
No.
Or helmets or anything like that. What about you? I'm curious now. What would your blank check? Well, now I'm gonna turn around on you. What would your blank check cosplay be?
So this one I may finally pull the trigger on sometime next year or the year after. I decided, I'm just go ahead and save up for it. I found somebody who can do it. That's an even mix of affordable, relatively affordable. This ain't actually affordable, but
relatively affordable
in the realm that I'm willing to spend.
Fair,
but also still looking good enough. It is a mashup of, I don't even know what I'm gonna name it yet. But I always think of Ghostface Killer's first album, Iron Man.
All right.
Wu-Tang, of course, they all have a gajillion.
Yeah.
But his from the Cuban Link album from Raekwon, his alias was Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Which is why he named it Iron Man. I didn't get it at first, but later on, I'm like, oh, I get it. So when I started cosplaying, I always thought I want to do a set of Iron Man armor, but in Wu-Tang colors, and the Wu-Tang logo instead of the arc reactor.
Oh, that's fire, man. That's fire.
I want to do that, but the bad thing is once I get it done, I would want to take it to New York Comic-Con, but then I would always be afraid of it getting damaged or lost on the way there.
Right.
So, because I'm like, I need to meet somebody from, like, I know Raekwon went up there one time. So I'm just like, I need one of y'all to be there when I go and get a picture with y'all.
I got you. What you need to do, what we need to do. And I'm dead serious on this. It needs to be a year that if we go, because I want to go, I honestly, my plan in my mind is to try to make it to 2022 New York Comic Con. The year that you decide, whether it's 2022 or any other year that you do, what we need to do is we need to drive up there. We need to just rent a van or whatever the case is. You, me, a couple of other people that we talk to, like Dr. Law and stuff like that. We need to rent a van and you get a, obviously one of those big containers to put it in, because that's going to be the safest way. That's honestly going to be the safest way. You don't want to air travel that stuff. You want to go ahead and be able to baby that bad boy in the back seat with some cushions and some lullaby music.
I'm the only handler of this package.
That's right. That's the way to do it. But
it's my fault, not nobody else's.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I really, if it wasn't for the fact, and I get that drive up to New York is a significant, what is like 16, 18 hours? I'm
thinking 16. Yeah. I mean, I've done it before, but it's been ages.
So that's really what you got to consider is if you're doing Thursday through Sunday, you may be driving up on Wednesday, and then driving back on Monday. So, I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, it's not that it can be done.
Yeah.
So that would be the way I would go about doing it, because that's also a good, I have the same hesitation. But when I went to New York Comic Con, I tried to pack costumes that I knew I could fit into the amount of luggage I was taking, because even though I ended up with 2 pieces of luggage, I knew that I was just like, this is sort of par for the course. But I also was very conscientious of what I was bringing. So, for example, even if I wanted to bring Black Panther, I couldn't, because the helmet in itself takes up a good chunk of your suitcase. So I was just like, well, then what am I left with? I can bring Luke Cage, because again, that's a hoodie, shirt, jeans. I can bring Green Lantern because it's spandex and maybe some boots, shoes, or whatever. I can bring anything that was like spandex and stuff like that. That was easy enough, because that's actually there's no pieces of it that would take up a huge amount of space. But if I wanted to go actually on a car trip, then I can bring something like Black Panther, like Batman, like anything with any like for example, if I wanted to, and I don't know if that's even a possibility, but if I wanted to bring Roadblock to New York Comic Con, I can't bring that hand cannon on.
I don't think they do well with firearms.
No, I don't believe they would. I don't, even if it's a nerf thing, the fact that it has this huge cannon on the other, that's probably too much for them. And I mean, hey, and the same thing with Blade too. Like if I wanted to bring Blade, I don't want to have to, like, that sword, even though actually I have this sword. I just bought the actual metal sword, but then I also built one sort of ish. Like I took actually a little cosplay tip for you guys out there. I took a blind, like an actual blind, like a window blind, and broke it off, and then filed it to a point. Wow. And then I had the hilt. A friend of mine had actually printed out a 3D print version of the sword, but unfortunately the sword was so thin that it snapped. So, but the hilt was still in perfect condition. So I took that blade and attached it to that hilt, and now I have my blades.
There you go. Wow.
Fake it till you make it, man. Fake it till you make it. And I brought some plumber's aluminum tape, which is basically, it looks like metal, like it sticks, and it looks like it's tape, but it looks like chrome. It actually looks more like chrome. But yeah, man, sometimes I get these weird things of inspiration where I've figured out I'm gonna coin a phrase of what my kind of cosplay is. I think I figured it out. I think my cosplay is scraps cosplay, because I've noticed that that's what I do. I take all these little scraps of things that I have over time, and I build stuff with it.
You sound like such an evil genius, and I love it.
I don't know about genius, but I don't know where it is. But the other day I made myself a rebreather for my Batman, and it was a thing from my mask for my CPAP, one of my old masks for my CPAP, a couple of PVC little tubes so that they look like the little oxygen things, a cap from a medicine cap, a thread, the plastic thing that holds the thread, and I put them all together and painted it, and now I have a rebreather. Now I have an in-character reason when I have Batman. I can go ahead and have a mask on and put that on and be like, and that's the reason why I have a mask on. My mask is
just cool. Yeah, my man.
Fake it till you make it. Fake it till you make it.
Where can everybody find you, follow you?
That is an excellent question. Where can you find me? Well, you can find me on Instagram at Dominycan Knyght _cosplay. There's only 2 Dominican Knights in Instagram, and I'm both of them. One of them is my personal page. The other one is my cosplay page. So if you happen to find my personal page, it's gonna say it's private. But if you go _cosplay, that's where you can find me. But you can also find me in Twitter under Dominycan Knyght. You can also find me on the Facebook. Dominycan Knyght as well, facebook.com or facebook.com/Dominycan Knyght. And that's Dominican with a K-N-Y. The
NY for New York, right?
That's right. So it's Dominican with a Y and Knight with a Y. No I's, just Y's.
No eyes.
No eyes, just Y's.
Yeah. Cool.
I don't know why. I don't know. I was trying to make a phrase out of that, but that didn't work. That didn't land at all. And I failed at that.
You got anything you want to get off your chest? Anything you want to promote? Any shout outs before we get out of here?
Man, the only thing I'm going to promote is this, man, and this is where we're going to go back to serious again, man. Just be good to yourselves. Don't, and if you're starting off and you want to do this, just like Nike says, man, just do it for yourself. Don't do it for anybody else. Do it because you love it. Do it because you wanna enjoy yourself. Don't put yourself in a position where you're looking at all these people on Instagram and looking at all these cosplayers who have all these intricate sort of cosplays, or even actually these people who have follow counts in the 100,000s. Don't worry about all that stuff, because ultimately at the end of the day, that's not what's going to make you happy, and maybe it might, but ultimately if you have to start doing what makes you happy, and that's going to show. If your end goal is to get to a point where you have that many followers, you have to start off with enjoying and actually enjoying what you and the reasons why you're doing it. Because if you don't do that, then there's no point.
Cool. All right, my man. It's been an honor having you on.
Oh my gosh, the honor is all mine, man. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
No problem, man. I think this is the longest one I've done so far.
We did it. We did it.
I don't know what the exact number is, but I'm just like, I think we done passed 2 hours, man.
2 hours. That's because we got into some deep conversations. Deep
stuff, man.
Deep.
Yeah, I used to chop them up, but I'm just like, you know what? As many times as I've watched somebody's long behind YouTube.
You can edit off of me, man. I know I go on rants. It's fine.
Yeah. So it's gonna be the just like Beat Down Boogie used to do the really long DragonCon video.
Oh yeah.
It is. But yeah, everybody at home, thank y'all for rocking with us for however long we did.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good night. Y'all have a good time. Whatever con you're going to next, please be safe out there.
Yes.
Yes. Good luck on your cosplay bills. Please hit that like button, that subscribe button, that share button. Leave me some comments. Follow Dominycan Knyght everywhere he is. Support him, like him, follow him, all that good stuff. And I will see y'all at the next video. Peace.